Hi everyone, welcome back to the Reclaimed Ranch. My name is Tara, and this week I thought I was going to get to a couple of bigger project pieces, but I was unable to. So I have 4 different thrifted items, and we are going to make them over into some beautiful home decor. So this first piece, I believe it's not like real resin. It's heavier than plastic, so I don't know, it might be a combo of both, but really, really cute swan. And so I'm going to go ahead and just use my Fusion's Picket Fence and give it just a light coat. I'm not pushing very hard because I don't want the paint to seep down into all those little crevices. That's actually going to be my distressed look. So it's just a dry brush kind of just gliding over the top to highlight all of those details. And for that, it's basically done. So I'm just going to do this one coat and let it dry really well. And then we're going to go in and we're going to paint the beak and the eyes with some Fusion Ash. And I think this turned out just super gorgeous, super pretty, very easy upcycle to do. Just throw a little bit of paint on there and you get a whole new look. So if I wanted to put this outside in my garden area, I would probably put on a couple of coats of top coat, and that will really help make it going outside a lot easier. It can definitely handle the weather a lot more with a sealer. Even though Fusion has its own sealer, I would definitely, if you're going to put anything outside, still recommend sealing it with a top coat. So this is that ash color. I love this color. It's like a light black. And so, like I said, we're just going to do the beak and the eyes, and then we're going to pretty much call this piece done. This next project, I found a couple of these wooden candlesticks, and they have a very, very distressed look to them. So distressed that the paint barely is even on there. So we're going to go ahead and make a lighter color using 2 types of milk paint. And so I took the Sunflower from Sweet Pickins and Hotel Robe from Fusion and just mixed them together to make my own really nice spring buttery color. And so you can do that with any kind of milk paint. As long as it's in the powdered form, you can make your own colors, which is kind of cool. So you mix 1 part of the paint with 1 part water, and you'll mix it for a couple of minutes and then let it sit for about 10 minutes to thicken up to about a milkshake consistency. And once that is ready to go, then you can go ahead and paint your items. And I put a pretty thick coat on typically, but not thick enough to where it's going to run down. So you want to make sure to keep those drips from running. Otherwise, you're going to have to try and sand those off. And because this already has a coat of paint on there, there is going to be some chipping and crackling, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Since it kind of has a white base, I want some of that white to peek through the cracks and the chips. And so what we're going to do is we're going to paint this entire thing, and then I'm going to go ahead in with my heat gun and I'm going to force it to chip and crackle. And so I do this on each step. So once I do the chip and crackle with the first step, I'm going to then go in with my, I believe it was like a 220 grit sandpaper. I'm going to lightly sand off all the little lumps and bumps. And then we're going to do the same process over again. So it has 2 coats, and look at how it turns out. It is so gorgeous. I love milk paint. Absolutely love it. If you're not looking for a chippy finish, you can also add Ultra Bond to your milk paint, and that will help it adhere better so that it doesn't chip and crack. So again, you can always get a really nice smooth finish with doing the sanding in between the coats. And then I have this random little pie plate or tart plate that I got from a thrift store. So we're going to use that as a topper. And so I poked a hole with my drill, and I'm going in with my Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to screw that on top and let it sit for a few hours before we even touch it to make sure it sets up really well. So the screw that I used was very silver. So I'm going to go back in with my Fusion's Ash and just touch it up a little bit to make it kind of blend in more. Now with the Sweet Pickins, the milk paint, you always want to clear coat it so that it doesn't continue to chip and crackle. You want to seal it really well. So I'm going to go in with the Sweet Pickins matte top coat, And that's going to help keep it all sealed in so that it doesn't continue to chip and crack. And so I just do one really thick coat of this, and this one is complete. So this third project is a little wooden, either like recipe card holder or match holder, not sure. Has these cute little bunnies on it. Looks like there was a 1995 on the bottom, definitely from that time frame. The bunnies are cute, but a little bit outdated. So I'm just gonna sand this down to where it's smooth. And then I had quite a bit of leftover paint from that other project, the yellow milk paint. So we don't wanna waste it. So let's go ahead and just paint that guy up and let it crackle. And then I'm going to go in with some of that top coat again from Sweet Pickens. I'm going to seal it really well. And then once that is dry, I go into my transfers from IOD, and the Brocante transfer has some really cool labels. So I picked one of those out, cut it out, and transferred on to the front of it. And then I used my Fusion's clear wax to seal it all in. And this just gives it a fresh new look for spring. Here's that Brocante transfer. And in the back, they have these really cool labels. And so I just picked one that I thought would pretty much cover the front and then went from there. All right, so this last project is this beautiful wooden pestle or masher, whatever you want to call it. It had a very thick, glossy covering on it. Somebody had hand painted some onions. I wasn't really a fan of those. I just kind of wanted to bring it back to the wooden stage, and so I sanded this for probably a half an hour. It was kind of crazy, but the wood is so pretty. And then I wanted to paint just the handles so that we can still actually use this if somebody wanted to. So once I got it all done, I wiped off all the dust and I went in with DIY's Mint Chip, I believe it's called, and painted the handle, just a quick couple coats. And then I took a baby wipe and wet distressed it back to look like it had been worn. And then to seal everything in, because you do have to seal your DIY paint, as well as the wood, I used Sweet Pickens hemp oil, which is food safe, and it will completely seal that paint in. And so there's up at the top of the screen, you can see there was a couple of Pampered Chef bowls I also had gone picking for, and I used the rest of the paint on there as well, that yellow paint, and made it chippy, and it looks really cute with this little pestle in there in that bowl. So it could be used for decor, or it could be used to mash some spices.